do have a shirt on. It kind of looks like I'm naked, but I'm not. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I feel like we kind of have a good connection going on here, but you don't really know me. So I thought today, in today's video, we could do a bookish Q&A slash a book tag, because since starting this channel, I just have not done that. So I did ask on Instagram if anyone had any bookish questions or just life questions. All of them came through bookish, so I figured we would just start with the few that I got over there. So the first question is, if you could recommend only one book to every person you meet, which one would it be? And I feel like if I could only recommend one single book out of every book I've ever read, it would probably be Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which I know is kind of shocking because we'll get into my favorite book later, but it is not my favorite book, but it is one of my favorite Abby Jimenez books. I will always recommend Abby Jimenez books to literally anyone. I feel like they are perfect for anyone, whatever you're looking for. Abby Jimenez has got it. I think I would pick Just for the Summer because I feel like it's such a great beginner romance as well. And there's just like a little bit more depth than like a typical rom-com. It's still funny. It has that typical like Abby Jimenez quirkiness to it. They meet on Reddit, which is obviously like right up Abby Jimenez like silliness vibes. So that is probably one I would recommend to everyone, just because I feel like it's got something in there for everyone. The next question is, what book have you reread the most and why? And to be honest, I don't typically reach for rereads. The only book I've ever reread is ACOTAR. I reread ACOTAR, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I also reread A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm just kind of slowly making my way through rereading the whole series, and that is where I've left off. But I'm not much of a book rereader. There's just so many books and so little time, and so I like to pick up new books. But if I were to reread any right now, I've really been wanting to reread Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren recently. I've also been really wanting to reread my childhood favorite books and like just like silly little chapter books like that, and I kind of want to make a video on that. So let me know if you'd be interested in that, because I want to like feel that childhood nostalgia again. I don't hate rereading books, I just haven't, besides ACOTAR. So I guess to answer that question, like definitely it would be ACOTAR. The next question says, how do you find a good balance to read and being productive? And I feel like this is a really great question, and even I sometimes struggle with it. I feel like it can be really easy to compare yourself to what other people are reading. Like last month I read 9 books, and this month I don't even think I finished a single book yet. So it kind of depends on the month for me, and it can be really easy to wrap yourself up and being like, well, this girl is reading 20 books a month and I can only get to like 4. One thing that's really helped me is kind of putting down TikTok. I know it's hard, and listen, I don't do it every single day. Like I work, I go to school, and sometimes like what I want for my brain is just to doom scroll and rot in bed. And so some days I'm on TikTok for 3 hours, and then some days I realize that I could be doing something more productive with my time and, you know, getting in some reading. I've recently kind of had this mind shift change. If I'm kind of stuck on a loop on TikTok, I like to kind of take a step back and be like, are any of these videos serving me in some way? You know what? I don't know if that makes sense, but like if I keep getting videos that are, you know, stupid or very harmful to my mental health, that's when I need to like take a step back and be like, these are not serving me. I'm just stuck in this like serotonin loop, and I need to go pick up a book. So that is how I stay productive. I literally just kind of had to sometimes be like, girl, what are you doing? Like, what are we doing here? And picking up a book. I feel like it's also very beneficial to DNF books. If you are not liking something and it's not keeping your attention enough to not pick up your phone after every chapter, DNF it. And you don't have to DNF it indefinitely. Maybe it's a soft DNF and it's like not the time for you to read that book right now because you just are not interested. I feel like being interested in a book is really what's going to help you stay away from, you know, screen times instead. The last question is, if you became an author, what kind of books would you write? I feel like it's everyone's dream to write a book. And especially if you're an avid reader, you want to take on that journey for yourself. If I were to write books, it would probably be romance. I feel like That is just what I'm most comfortable in. I think that it is super fun. I will say, if I were to ever become an author, I would love to start out in the romance genre and then maybe branch to fantasy. It's just hard for me to see myself being able to create such a wonderful fantasy world that some of these fantasy authors like create in their own head. Like, this is fake, this is made up, it's not real life, but they can like make it in their head, and then somehow like after like 8 books they can like make it come back, and it's mind-blowing. I don't think I could ever do it. That's why I think I need to stay in my lane and stick to like a rom-com or something. But I also just like prefer romance novels at this time in my life. So if I were to become an author tomorrow, it would probably be like a romance novel. Alrighty, next we're gonna go ahead and get into the tag questions. I have them here on my laptop, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. The first question is, how many books are too many books in a series? And for me, I love a duology or a trilogy, but I think once you start getting to like 8, 9 books, I feel like you've probably maybe lost my attention. Obviously, if ACOTAR had 10 books, I would read them all and probably reread them. But I think it just kind of depends. I feel like the series that are already finished, that are like 8 or 9 books long, are very daunting. Like Throne of Glass for me is very, very daunting because it's so long, and as you go through the series, they just get thicker. And so I think for me, since it's kind of scary, I'm less likely to pick it up than like a duology or like a trilogy. I just feel like sometimes if it's not done right as well, if you're doing like 9 books and you're not doing it right and it's just too much, it's like too much. Like at this point we're doing too much. So hardbacks or paperbacks? Definitely a paperback girly. I have a few hardbacks and I don't prefer them. They do look cooler on a shelf, but just reading them and holding them, especially if it's a longer book, it can get really heavy. It's just like, it's not comfy. I'm a big firm believer in twisting and like cracking the spine of my paperbacks. Here, let me show you. I'll read a paperback like this, which I know people literally hate, but like that's what books are for. They're meant to be tossed around. They're meant to be read and digested. And so I'm going to do that. So I would definitely say I prefer a paperback, but in today's world, a lot of the, you know, best-selling authors will release their books in hardcovers first. And it's a book I really, really want to read. I'll splurge and get the hardcover. Obviously, hardcovers are more expensive. Sometimes you don't want to wait for the release of a paperback. I wish we would get away from that notion because waiting a year for the paperback is just crazy. Next question is favorite author, and I feel like I kind of already answered this earlier, but it's definitely Abby Jimenez. More recently, I've been loving Emily Henry, but all in all, I think it's Abby Jimenez for me because she is just amazing, which leads me to the next question. It's my favorite book, and that is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I love everything that Yours Truly encapsulates. I feel like Abby Jimenez did a really great job showing, you know, the mundane side and the everyday side of anxiety. I loved the characters, the way the story built. It's my favorite book ever. And maybe I'm a little bit biased for favorite author because that's my favorite book ever, but I do love like pretty much every other Abby Jimenez book out there. Every time she releases something, I'm immediately like reading it. So like all her short stories that she does throughout the year, I devour them every time. She's just like, she's just so good. The next question is a book you dislike that everyone seems to love. I feel like I need to look up here. The first one that comes to mind for me is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I just don't know where I stand on the Taylor Jenkins Reid like side of things. Sometimes I like her books, sometimes I don't. Evelyn Hugo was just like really, really hyped up for me, and when I read it, I just didn't understand the hype. I don't know why I didn't like it as much. Maybe it was because of the like book talk hype and like expectations falling short, but I feel like people really, really love that book, and I just feel like I fall in the minority of it. So that's the first one that comes to mind. One or multiple POVs. I feel like I need to take these off. Really like that's kind of annoying though. If I leave these on because they're cute, will you guys hate me? Immediately, I'm gonna go with multiple POVs. I just love a multiple POV. Like I love when we get to see the man's side of things and they're just yearning for the female main character, and then we go flip to the female main character chapter and she like has no clue. I live and die for that. I love it so much. I just like I just feel like multiple POVs give you more depth of the characters and more plot. Like, I don't know, it just gives the book more like meat. I prefer it. I mean, I don't hate single POVs, and sometimes it can be done even better than a multiple POV, but if I had to choose, I would definitely pick multiple. Next is favorite genres to read, and I feel like we already know this. I'm definitely a romance girly through and through. I love fantasy as well. I just read it less, but I would say romance, fantasy, and just like plain fiction. I also like nonfiction slash memoirs. Those are some of my favorite books to listen to in between, you know, just like a fluffy romance, because I think that they can be really, really great. So I would say romance, fantasy, fiction, and then memoirs. I definitely used to be a thriller girly, but time and time again, I just have been kind of let down by the thriller genre. So I would say that I don't think I've read a thriller book in like a year. It's been so long since I've read a thriller book, because to me there's a little bit of a waste of time. So if you have any thriller recommendations, let me know, because I would love to be a thriller girly again. I just am not at the moment. Most relatable character. And we're gonna go ahead and jump back to yours truly by Abby Jimenez, to Jacob, the male main character in yours truly. He struggles with social anxiety in this book, and I literally have never felt so seen by a character before in my entire life. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm so anxious all the time, but like Jacob really, really struggled with social anxiety, especially in his role as like a lead doctor. And I feel like Abby Jimenez did such a great job at portraying it. It is a very scary thing to just come out and be like, this person who has crippling freaking anxiety represents me. Like, it is kind of weird, and I would say like not all of it is very similar, but at the time in my life when I read it, and even now, there's some things that I'm like, whoa, like literally no one really writes about these kind of like what other people might seem as silly struggles. And so when I read that, I literally had just never felt like so seen, and it was just so crazy, like the silly little things that she would write about how he would eat alone because he didn't want people to even just see him chewing, which is just like so relatable in like just the smallest way. Next question is, have you always loved reading? And this is like a very, what am I trying to say? To make a long story short for you guys, because I feel like my reading journey has been very, very long, but obviously this is a tiny little video. So to make it short for you guys, I really liked reading in elementary school and middle school. I definitely didn't read as much as I do now. Trust me, I love the book fair. Like, give me the book fair money and I'm going crazy. But when I was a kid, I really liked reading. I feel like I didn't read as much as I would have liked to as a kid because of, you know, just being afraid of people saying that I'm like weird, or like, I don't know, like, I know that sounds really silly, but even as a kid, I saw it, like, people that I knew in my grade who literally always had their nose in a book would kind of be ostracized, like, literally. Like, I know this sounds really silly, but I saw it with my own two eyes. Like, people, you know, they weren't, like, bullied, but they were, you know, maybe cast out as different than the other kids. And so I guess I just didn't read as much, which is kind of sad. But now I feel like, especially with book talk and booktube, reading has just become such a big thing, and I feel like it's a much more safe community. I don't know if that makes, I'm making it sound really dramatic. It's just a very much more highlighted community now, and it's not weird to read 100 books in a year. Like, that's like considered amazing. And maybe that's just with like me getting older, and like reading is cool when you're older. I don't know, but that is my answer for that. I have always loved reading. I just have not been able to read as much as I would like. So yeah. Favorite book to TV show or film adaptation? This is hard. I feel, okay, for film it has to be Hunger Games. I loved the Hunger Games when I was younger. I read the books, I read the books, I watched the movies, and even now they're still freaking amazing. For TV show, I feel like more recently I really love The Summer I Turned Pretty. I read the books more recently and I just love the show. I feel like it's a little bit cringy. It's less cringy than the books, I'll tell you that. I don't know, like the fact that it drops every summer, like I just love the vibes behind it. And so if you were to ask me right now what you are, it would be The Summer I Turned Pretty, which I feel like is maybe not the most popular choice. Okay, second to last question is favorite series. And we've already talked about it. It's gonna have to be ACOTAR. I know that there's probably better series out there. I know you Thrown a Glass girlies are screaming at me, especially for what I said earlier about it being daunting. But at this point in my life, I just love ACOTAR. Like I said, I'm in the middle of slowly rereading it. I think about it a lot, like genuinely. I wouldn't go so far as to say I think about it every day, but I do think about it a lot. It is definitely one of the series that sparked my love for reading again. Like I had been reading other books before ACOTAR when I read it, but I was like, holy shit, like this can be like that. And it was the first fantasy that I had ever read. I thought going into reading fantasy that I would be weird if I read fantasy or like, you know, geeky or nerdy. And I thought it wasn't gonna be for me at all. I was like, fairies, what the fuck? Like who was reading about fairies? And then I read it and my life was genuinely changed and flipped upside down. I now love fantasy. I love reading about fairies. I love just indulging in geeky stuff now that I'm older and like feel more free to do so. I know that sounds so dramatic, but yeah. Last question is a book you wish had a sequel. And the first book that comes to mind for this is a recent book, and that is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I loved this book. It was my second 5-star read of the year. I've only had 2 and it was my second. I just loved it. And once I finished the book, knowing that she said that it was a standalone, kind of made me sad because I loved it so much. I loved the characters. I would love more, but I also do think it ended on a great note, but I do want more. Like I will not say I don't want more because I loved it. Alrighty guys, that was my tiny little book tag, book Q&A. I hope you guys got to know me a little bit more. If you liked today's video, leave a like, subscribe so you don't miss out on the next videos. Thank you guys all so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.